And welcome to Charging Stack, where we talk people building what's next in mobility. Today, we're diving into a problem most people don't think about, but it's autonomous vehicles can't avoid. It's the curb. Joining us is Ben Seidl, a founder and CEO of Autolane, a startup turning the messy chaos of AV pickups and delivery into a structured, software-driven system. Autolane is building an operating system for curbside autonomy, combining smart hardware, cloud-based orchestration, and remote operations to make sure robots can actually get the job done. Ben, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Marin. It's awesome. It's a great opportunity to talk with y'all
Yes.
about where this industry is headed. I'm excited.
Likewise. We've been reading so much about AV industry, and talking to someone from the actual industry is amazing firsthand. And I would actually like to start with a simple question: is actually why the curb matter? Um, in a sense, most people think about AVs as a driving problem, but you're focused on what happens when they stop, right?
hmm
So why did you decide to build for the curb instead of the vehicle?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I suppose the concise answer is we believe that the driving aspect of autonomous vehicles is largely solved. We think we're at the final mile, pun intended, of this journey, and it's been a decade or in some respects longer in the making. But if you look at the progress that Tesla in particular has made and Waymo with its scaling efforts over the last year, you really see an inflection point in this industry starting about early 2024. And so if you were to project that with the upcoming advances, of course, in AI and more compute coming online, better inferencing chips coming out from NVIDIA and others, you can kind of see a straight line shot to this autonomous driving technology being largely solved. Now, it's still going to have some bumps and hiccups. I'm sure there will be some issues that are unforeseen, but where the industry is from a driving perspective compared to, let's just say, 3 to 5 years ago when most people thought that autonomous vehicles were ready for the mainstream, we are ready now. And so we chose to focus on the second and third order effects of AVs proliferating across the world, but particularly here in the United States, we have 5 major cities that offer autonomous vehicle rides completely um, commercially and with no supervisors. Those cities are Phoenix, Atlanta, Austin, Texas, San Francisco area, and Los Angeles. And so that's a pretty broad sampling of American cities, and it's working very well on a commercial basis with both Tesla and Waymo in most of those places. And so we basically believe that um, this aspect of the industry is close to being solved, and it's time to start building the picks and shovels and applications that will further this technology's reach and impact in both the economy and society.
Great. I mean, and you are certainly one of the pioneers. I can say that pretty much, right? You are. There's not there's not much around here that's similar to your solution. You're pretty much the first one.
That's correct. I would say, I mean, we've not seen anyone doing anything similar at this point in Q3 2025, but I would expect many entrants into this field because this is the beginning, in my opinion, of not just a new type of technology or a new application, but an entirely new industry,
Hmm.
meaning much bigger than even a category. So you have some startups who are category creators. I genuinely believe that we are one of the first movers in what is a brand new industry that we call autonomous commerce.
Hmm. So talking about autonomous commerce, and then again going back to I love that word, the curb. What makes the curb such a tricky problem, and why does it matter in let's say AV commerce? Can you just maybe explain to our listeners the terminology?
hmm Yeah. So if you were to break down some of the aspects of autonomous vehicle driving behaviors that today that still need refinement and improvement, a lot of that is in edge cases and also precision. So edge cases meaning how do autonomous vehicles interact with emergency vehicles, with construction projects, with streets being shut down. So there's a lot of real-time interruption that takes place in our cities, of course, on a daily basis from all these types of things. And most of them are not planned ahead of time in some orderly fashion. Most of them are real time. And so those edge cases, because they are so numerous, that edge case of how does an autonomous vehicle interact with a police officer at a scene of a crime where 5 city blocks are shut down and all of this is happening immediately. How does an AV know to change its course, to change its plans without being told? And so a human driver, of course, can either talk to the police officer if they live inside of that 5-block area, for example, or they're trying to deliver something in that 5-block area and they want to know when this will be over or if it will be over or can they get in an exclusive basis. You can rely on being a human and using your verbal and nonverbal communication tools to mitigate the issue and figure out a solution for yourself. But that is not possible with robots, obviously. And so I would say the 2 buckets in autonomous driving that need to be refined and improved for this technology to really go full scale are those types of edge cases. And then the second bucket is precision. So these are non-deterministic technologies for the most part, meaning they have the authority and the capabilities built into their models to make different decisions based on the exact same circumstance. Meaning, I test this every day with our technology. If you send a Tesla to the grocery store, let's say, it sends the GPS instructions will tell you to go to this address, which has a random pinpoint associated with it based on the point of interest, and the car will go to that grocery store. Which ingress egress driveway that it chooses to take sometimes differs based on a variety of decisions that it makes for itself. Where it actually decides to park when it gets there or stop is completely random and non-deterministic. So sometimes it will park in the middle of the parking lot, like in the actual lane,
Yeah.
blocking traffic. Sometimes it will park in a fire lane right in front of the store. Sometimes it will park in a handicap parking stall. Sometimes it will park at the beginning of the parking lot or the end of the parking lot. And sometimes it will park perfectly in a parking stall right where you want it to go. That would be proclaimed to be ideal. So you don't know when you arrive in one of these vehicles whether you're going to get an ideal arrival or a super disruptive, unacceptable arrival. You have no clue. And so because we're working with non-deterministic AI systems, essentially embodied AI in these cars, that bucket of precision driving has to be improved in order for these vehicles to efficiently interact with high activity, high volume parking lots. So you can't have a world in which these autonomous vehicles are arriving to, let's say, a Costco parking lot on a Saturday afternoon in Los Angeles. Those are parking lots that are completely jam-packed and full of chaos and problems and people getting mad at each other and honking and arguing and fighting over spaces. And that's without any autonomous vehicles. Now project what happens when you add robotics that are non-deterministic, that don't have precision capabilities into that mix today. It's a recipe for absolute disaster. And so if you're Costco in this case, you're looking at the technology of autonomous vehicles and saying, well, of course they're here and they're only going to scale and they are eventually coming to every one of our parking lots at some point in the future. So it's not a question of covering up your eyes and kind of like hoping this will go away or this problem will solve itself. It won't solve itself. It needs to be solved actively by Costco in some way, shape, or form because they are the property owner of that parking lot. They are the property operator of that parking lot. And they have the jurisdiction and legal right to to implement traffic laws and behaviors per their desires. And so Costco isn't going to be able to sit back and just say, let's see what happens. They're going to have to take an active stance and direct these autonomous vehicles to the areas of their parking lots that they would like them to go. They should have some control and monitoring of those autonomous vehicles, and they should be integrated with all the different OEMs that are shipping these types of vehicles, namely Tesla, Waymo, Volkswagen, Zoox, AV Ride. Those are the big ones in Austin, Texas. And you're going to have to directly integrate with all those different companies that have different hardware, different software, and different data flows. So what Autolane does is we are then saying, how do we help Costco adopt this fantastic new technology of autonomous vehicles in a efficient and easy way so that we can take that work off of their shoulders and simply ask them, how would you like autonomous vehicles to arrive at your property? Where would you like them to go? And then once you tell us that, we can translate those desires into our software and our hardware and set up essentially what we call an AV zone, an AV hub. Our branded name for that is Open Curb. That's our trademark name for the system. But you essentially tell us where you want an Open Curb to be installed, and then we can work with the AV companies to make sure that they arrive in the Open Curb zone efficiently and orderly. And then on top of that, what you get as Costco is you'll get a dashboard that shows you how many AVs have come today, which stalls are occupied, which ones are available, what reservations are taking place, meaning which cars are incoming in the next 30 minutes. And then you have all the analytics behind how autonomous vehicles are interacting with your property. And that's essentially a SaaS, hardware-enabled SaaS that we sell to retailers and property owners like a Costco or a Simon Property Group, for example.
So it's a SaaS, yeah. So my question, my next question was about to be for you to walk us kind of through the full stack hardware, software operations. So you were telling it is a SaaS, right? So it is a. So how do you approach your potential clients? How does that go?
So as far as where we meet them, these are usually conversations that are started at events and trade shows and things like that. It's really because this is a cutting edge problem that these retailers are facing for the very first time. They're looking to anyone who might have expertise to help them think, first and foremost, think this through and ask some questions. And so we really become kind of the consulting partner in that sense of at least giving them our thoughts and opinions and data about where this industry is going and how they can expect this to continue. And so first and foremost, that's kind of how it I would say it starts as more of like a consultative conversation because these retailers, of course, have lots of questions. And then the second part is, they sign up for a contract with us. That's usually a multi-year contract. This is infrastructure that's being put into the parking lots. So there is a hardware sensor kit that is fully off the grid, solar powered. That's very small, like the size of a coffee cup, that we install in whatever area of their parking lot that they choose to have an open curb zone. And usually this little sensor kit is installed in the actual curbside pickup sign itself. And you may have seen these signs, if you go to Walmart or Target or Whole Foods, you can order curbside pickup ahead of time and just drive to those stalls and they come out and bring your order. And it's
Love those.
very efficient. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah, I love
so
those.
so so what we're doing is we're adding a technology layer on top of that existing curbside pickup operation that is designed for humans, and we are adding technology that enables autonomous vehicles to also effectively use that same infrastructure without any human intervention.
And so speaking of, the question coming from someone who doesn't know pretty much anything about how your system works, but how does the system actually knows which vehicle is arriving and then what it is supposed to do when it does?
Good, great question. So we use first off a reservation system. So when we integrate with a Waymo or a Tesla or a Volkswagen, for example, we offer them a reservations API that enables them to know ahead of time if they want to send a car to Costco at a really high volume time of day. They're not going to have to worry about their autonomous vehicle getting literally stuck or lost, not finding a parking spot anywhere. They're going to have a reserved spot. So, first and foremost, we serve up that information to them via API. We can glean that information by ultrasonic radar, is what we're using to sense occupancy at each one of the stalls within our open curb zone. So, let's say we have 3 parking stalls that we manage in the open curb zone. We've got 3 devices that are sensing occupancy. So it's binary, either empty or occupied. And then on top of that, the other piece of information we need to know is the car that's occupying this stall, for example, a autonomous vehicle that is pre-registered to be here or not. So in the case that a human might decide, screw it, I'll just park in this spot to save myself time. If it's empty, we would know, hey, this stall is now occupied, but B, this stall is occupied by a non-authorized vehicle. And we use a variety of technologies to do that. But essentially, we have a unique digital code that emits from the cars that we then track to our database. And so when a car signs up to be eligible for Autolane, we have a unique identifier from that. So then we can say, okay, the stall is occupied, and the stall is occupied with a car that's in our system. Great, it's this car in our system. Awesome, we know that that was supposed to be, and now we can tell Costco, hey, the car that we told you we expected to arrive in 20 minutes on a reservation is now checked in. It is here. And if that car is arriving to drop off a passenger who's going to go shop in the store, that's great. Then the car just arrives, drops the person off, and can take off. If it's arriving to pick somebody up for a robotaxi ride, then that person who's looking for that ride will know that that car is going to arrive in the open curb zone in 15 minutes per their app, and they can walk over to the open curb zone and jump into their car when it arrives. And the last use case for this technology is the most exciting one, meaning if that car can drive itself to Costco and effectively park and check itself in, couldn't that car be arriving to pick up an order? And of course it can. Well, what else would have to be possible in order for that to take place seamlessly? The last part of it is you would let Costco know. You need to associate that car with a customer or an order. And then when the Costco representative comes out to the parking lot with the order to place in the car, you would need to be able to either pop the trunk for them or give them the retailer ability to pop the trunk on command. And so we give that that via API as well, so that a retailer can engage in what we call autonomous commerce. So
It's an amazing piece of technology.
there's essentially 3 use cases that come out of the open curb zone, and it can be used seamlessly for all 3. It doesn't, to our system, it doesn't matter what the car is arriving to accomplish. We just want to make sure that the car arrives to a precise location that the retailer wants it to, that it tells us ahead of time what it's coming to do, one of those 3 things. And if it's coming to pick up an order, then we need to have the information relayed from that car, from that customer, about pass that on to Costco, and Costco can know to come out to the parking lot in 15 minutes with order number 123. We open the trunk, they put the order in, trunk closes, and away the car goes to deliver that item. So it's kind of a universal autonomous vehicle coordination tool is the way I would describe it at a high level. But the most exciting use case, of course, of those 3 is the autonomous commerce aspect.
Yes, it's as I said, it's really amazing piece of technology. I mean, we've seen so many of those smaller autonomous vehicles, delivery vehicles, but we haven't seen such a, if you want to place a bigger order, like $1,000 order, and you need an actually, and you don't have the time to go to the shop, you don't have the time to for do anything. You're so busy. I mean, this is so amazing, and I'm just thinking, hearing you talk, there's so many possible use cases. I mean, older people. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there were so many articles about women feeling safer in autonomous vehicles as using as taxis,
Yes.
and I feel like there's so many possible case scenarios, and the options are pretty much unlimited. So yeah,
Yeah.
amazing that you allocated that problem, and yeah, truly, yeah, congrats.
Well, Thank you, thank you. One of the things I would say the origin story of Autolane is interesting because it this is all essentially something that I wanted to have for myself,
Yeah.
um, which is sometimes how a lot of companies are started. Um, but I bought a 2024 Tesla Model Y a year ago this month, and I bought that sight unseen as a recommendation from my brother-in-law, who's a big. He's had Teslas forever, and he said it's the best car. Once you buy one, you'll never go back. He really convinced me that that was the family car that we should get, and so I took his advice and bought one sight unseen on the Tesla website. And when it was delivered, I had never used any of the full self driving autonomy features. I had also never been inside of a Waymo, and Waymos were fully live in San Francisco, Phoenix, and other places last summer. I had no experience in that either, and no automotive experience. So, I mean, technically, I'm the wrong person for the job, but when I received my car and started using the full self driving autonomy features, and I saw how advanced it was already last year, it drove me around town, it took me downtown, it parked me, it avoided bad like police situations, and the police waved it through, and it slowly,
Yeah.
it did some things that blew my mind. And then I was curious to see, I trusted it really quickly, more than I even trust myself as a driver. And then I was curious to see if my wife, who's more cautious than I am, would also adopt this technology as quickly as I had. And 5 days later from buying the car, both of us stopped driving. We,
Oh,
we,
really?
we, we fully handed over our driving to the autonomous system in our car.
Oh, that's amazing.
And once I started doing that, I just thought to myself, that is, this is unbelievable. Like, this is going to change absolutely everything. The second and third order effects of this technology are not being widely discussed. What's being discussed is,
Absolutely.
how many of these cars are out there? Are they having accidents? Are they not? Are they safe? What states, what countries, allow them or don't allow them? It's all about the driving itself, which is, don't get me wrong, of course, the only thing that matters at the end of the day. But I found it curious that we were at such a point last year with this technology being so advanced, in my opinion, again being a beginner and not an industry expert, but someone with no background whatsoever being exposed to this technology and seeing how good it was. My entrepreneurial brain couldn't let go of the question of what happens next. Not how many of these cars will be out there and which OEMs will produce them and all that stuff. More just, let's just assume for a second that this technology over the next couple years becomes good enough to be widely trusted by all OEMs. And it's very clear that this technology is transferable to all cars that have the requisite camera system and computer system, meaning you could install this on a brand new van in 2 years. You could install it on a truck. You could install it on a convertible, a racing car. You can install it anywhere. It doesn't matter what car it's driving. And so I have the belief, and still do today, that this technology will be embedded in almost every single brand new car from every major OEM within 5 years off of the line. And I don't what I think that means, and what it doesn't mean, is this will be a technology that is just natively embedded into all brand new nice cars. And that doesn't mean you have to use it. There will be people that just want to manually drive their cars in 5 years for a variety of reasons. But it will be, in my opinion, something similar to cruise control, meaning you don't question whether or not your brand new car has cruise control. You assume it does. That technology came out decades ago. And at the beginning of that technology, that was a huge, scary thing, which is like, oh, wow, I can press this lever and my car will drive
Yeah.
straight and on this same speed. Interesting. I won't have to like touch the accelerator anymore. I just steer it. That was a really crazy idea. I remember when I was a kid, and that was a feature that was only in very nice cars. This car has cruise control. And if you look back on that invention and uh, the adaptation of cars to that idea, it was quite quick to, a decade later or maybe less, that every single brand new car just had that in it. And that didn't mean you have to use cruise control. I didn't always use it, but there were moments when I thought, oh, this is a great feature that I'm going to activate right now. And I didn't ask whether or not it would have it in a new car. I knew that it would. And so I think that where we're headed is that this autonomy technology will be the same story, just 2 or 3 levels higher, which instead of
Absolutely.
keeping your speed, it will just keep your entire route for you. And you
Absolutely. I
don't,
have to say, yeah.
yeah, you
Sorry.
don't, I just don't think if, I hope people don't misunderstand me in the sense that I don't think that I think that all cars in 5 years will be fully autonomous. I just think
No,
that
absolutely. Yeah.
I think all brand new cars in 5 years will be fully autonomous capable. And then
Equipped. Yeah.
consumers themselves will make that decision, maybe even on a real time basis, like the cruise control example. Like it might cost if you turn it on, maybe it charges you
Yeah.
by the day or by the minute to use it or by the month, but you will of course pay extra to use that feature, which is a software feature of the car, but you won't have to. But if you then say, if you take what I'm saying as true and you agree, then the question that I asked myself after buying this car was, if that happens, and if every brand new car in 5 years can drive itself, then what does that do to commerce? Was my kind of main thing. And my initial hankering was, this car is driving me around the city really nicely. I don't have to drive anymore. That's really great. But man, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice if I could
Yeah.
just send it to the grocery store right now, or send it to the hardware store, or send it to pick up my medication at the pharmacy, or send it to drop off a FedEx package at the store. All these errands that we do on a daily basis, if you break them all down and you evaluate whether or not it was required for you to physically go, the majority, 90+% of those errands that you do aren't requiring you to physically be there. And thus, if they're not, and a car can drive itself that you own, then you're in a world in which all of your errands will be done by your car if you so choose. And that was my vision of, I want to make my car
Amazing.
in the
Amazing.
future be able to go pick up my groceries by me clicking one button, and then it will tell me when it's back in my driveway and I walk outside, get my groceries out of the car, and I can do that for my pharmacy or for anything else. And so I started with the vision of that, which is to say, how could I make my car do that someday, when it's possible? And what technology would we need to build and sell in order for that type of transaction, the autonomous commerce transaction? What would I need to create in order for that to happen seamlessly? And so that's kind of where we're at today, is that the stack that I described to you earlier in the call is step one of what is absolutely required in order for that autonomous commerce transaction to take place, which is that when you send your car, the car can drive itself just great. That's not a problem. The governments are going to allow that. That's not a problem. Uh, most of these retailers in the United States have curbside pickup operations already built into their store flow. That's not a problem. And they all have online ordering now. So that's not a problem. What is the only problem is the orchestration flow of the data and the routing. So to say, how do you connect all those disparate systems, online ordering, curbside pickup, self-driving car, consumer wants it to go somewhere. How do you tie all that stuff together in one very nice infrastructure tool that would enable the grocery store to accept those types of orders without having a headache? And so if we don't build what we're building, Open Curb, then the grocery store would have to either build this themselves, or they would have to do this manually. And we have already been testing this manually for months, and I
Yeah.
can tell you that
They don't
the
want to do
man
it alone.
the manual
No way.
idea would only last a month or two before you would be like,
Yeah.
we can't service these types of requests, because you can and will, and people will do this because Autolane won't be able to scale its technology and infrastructure as fast as this market is about to grow. So
Yeah.
there will be places where people will do this manually, meaning they will send their autonomous car to a burrito shop. It will park at
Yeah.
the burrito shop, and then they're going to call the burrito store and say, "Hey, I know this is weird, but I'm Ben, and I just ordered a burrito from you online. My autonomous car is outside in your parking lot right now.
Yeah.
Can you bring my burrito out to my trunk? Stay on the phone with me, and when you get out there, let me know when you're out there, and I will pop the trunk from my app, from my OEM app, and then you can put the burrito
Yeah.
in my car. Shut my trunk, please, and then I will manually send my car to come back to myself." So if you're the burrito shop, that's going to happen. But if you are Chipotle or McDonald's and you start getting these calls to your store, or text to your store every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you're going to hit a point where you're going to say, we can't do this type of thing manually
Yeah.
anymore. It doesn't make sense.
Too much manpower, just
And
yeah,
you're going to have to
inefficient.
buy, and you're going to have to then either build the technology that we're currently selling yourself, or you're going to buy it from someone like us. And so, I think it's exciting to start with. While it's not sexy, we're starting with the really boring infrastructure tools that are required to make this possible. But again, without building these tools now, none of the really fun and exciting stuff can ever take place seamlessly.
I don't think it's boring at all. I think it is sexy, and I just want to go back to a bit of to the autonomous driving as to its core because I feel like there's so much stigma around autonomous driving still in the
Mm-hmm.
world. And recently, I was reading a case study from a British company called Wave. You probably heard about them. They
I
recently
know
signed a deal
Wife.
with Uber. Yeah,
Yeah,
and they were showing some crazy, I mean, stats, just showing how safe those vehicles are. When they're done properly, those systems are amazing. I mean, firsthand. They're
yeah,
truly safe.
they are.
I mean, so the numbers are
It's crazy.
amazing.
They're really
Yeah,
good.
it's and
Yeah.
people don't realize that. So yeah, and I again wanted to say, I mean, as a European who travels frequently to the US, I mean, US is an amazing market for autonomous driving,
Mm-hmm.
especially how your guys' roads are built. It's
Yep.
perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
there's everything is
For
wide, everything is, simple, straight, there's no, yeah, so it's perfect in it.
for
Yeah.
for better or worse, I mean, the United States of America is a car culture, and probably
Definitely,
will
absolutely.
continue to be a car culture. Now these cars are going to
Even
be
yeah, even more
autonomous.
and more.
But what I looked at when deciding to potentially start this business was actually that as well, which is to say, where is this going to work well, and where is this going to not work well? And it absolutely will work best in the United States, and then where in
In the United
particular
States, absolutely.
and then where particular in the United States, not New York City right off the bat, not downtown Chicago. It's going to work best in the same exact places where autonomous vehicles are already very active, which are the Southwest and the Southeast, essentially the entire southern hemisphere, or sorry, southern latitudes of the United States.
Yeah.
Those Phoenix, Arizona, Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Miami, Florida, Los Angeles, California, San Francisco, California, those particular metropolises have pretty consistent weather. Not a lot of like massive inclement outside of Miami. Not a lot of massive inclement weather problems. Um, and autonomous vehicles aren't perfect yet in very strong inclement weather, meaning mostly ice and snow. They do work, but I think more advancements need to take place in order to perfect that. And so the reason why you see Waymo and Tesla in those southern United States cities is because of the weather, and also the southern United States cities are generally less dense. They are newer, and so they're more like the current United States than the Northeast, which is more like Europe in parts of
Hmm.
it. And so for the easiest pathway for all this technology to begin is to take wide open, as you said, easy infrastructure with low density populations that have relatively newer infrastructure and roads, and consumer behavior uh, cities with consumer behavior that is more car centric than others. For example, I went to school in Boston and New York, and they're a lot of people there do quite well and are happy
Yeah.
walking and biking.
Yeah.
And I'm from Portland, Oregon, in the Northwest, and we have one of the most active bike cultures in the United States. And so there are cities where car culture isn't celebrated as much as it is, let's say, in Texas and California. California was literally built by Walt Disney, Los Angeles in particular, around the personally owned automobile. So it's the perfect existing culture and infrastructure for autonomous vehicles to flourish, but also for us and others to build autonomous commerce infrastructure so that consumers can take advantage of this great new technology.
Yeah. In my head, I was also thinking Colorado, but I know the snow is a big factor. But also, I mean, Colorado is crazy how everything is so wide.
It'll work in
Definitely.
Colorado for sure, but it just there's it'll come there later. And then the
Yeah.
places that it won't work, which I've had many
Yeah.
discussions with people from Latin America, for example, and
And what do you think about that? And Europe, for example, what do
and,
you think
and
about autonomous vehicles in those markets,
I
in
I
those?
think so. I've met with the Wave team, for example, fantastic team, and I've seen what they're doing in London and really impressed also. So I think it'll absolutely work in Europe. It's going to be slower, of course, and it will also be not as widely adopted because if you think
Yeah.
about what I described earlier, particularly the autonomous commerce aspect depends on the retailer or the property owner themselves to install the requisite technology to make this happen. And so you have to start first from the lens of the retailers. If we're going to talk about autonomous commerce, then it's a question of would Aldi does Aldi want to do this? If Aldi adopts this, or if IKEA adopts this, or the other major retailers who are Tesco, if they adopt this and they start advocating for people to send their autonomous vehicles, well now there's a reason and an application and a utility for people to do this. But without those major retailers offering the ability to do this, then you're mostly talking about just kind of autonomous vehicle ride hailing, basically, which is still awesome. And I think ride hailing doesn't require that as much coordination. It doesn't, because you could just get dropped off on the public street and get out of your car and then walk into the grocery store. You don't have to go into the grocery store parking lot. If you wanted to go downtown to a football match, you could have your car drop you off in the neighborhood close to it, and then you could walk to the game and you send your car back home, or park your car there and come pick it up when whatever. But you don't need the precision in a ride hailing perspective, especially in public, that you do for commerce. Commerce cannot take place unless that retailer knows exactly, quickly, what parking stall your car is in, how to open your car, how to communicate with you, how to prepare your order. So without ultra precision, autonomous commerce is not possible. And without the retailers adopting the technology to do that, then there won't be a use case for it. And then in that case, you might see autonomous commerce not happening in Europe for a while. But I do think we're seeing a lot of progress, broadly speaking, in autonomous vehicles over the last couple of months with the UK backing Wave in some of their new pilots. I think 2027 they're aiming to do fully autonomous rides in London with Wave and Uber. So that's a really great sign. That's a recent thing. I think the government in Brussels is of course close to reviewing full self-driving capabilities for Tesla and granting hopefully
Yep.
more ability for
Yeah.
Tesla cars to do things. So it looks like it's going to happen slowly, but my guess would be it'll be very slow and it won't be as expressive as the United States will be, because I think that Autolane is going to be quite successful with bringing its open curb technology to many of the top retailers. And the more that network grows, the more expressive that solution becomes, the more attractive it is, attracting more people to use autonomous and buy autonomous vehicles. So it's like this flywheel that, unless the cars have an incredible amount of utility and value in the application space for the car, then there won't be as much adoption. But the more things that the car can do for you to save you money on errands, save you money on delivery, save you money on ride hailing, the more things it can do for you to take off your plate and save you money, the more you'll want to buy one, and the more and the faster this industry will spin. And so I think the application layer, while it's never talked about today, there are no applications today for autonomous vehicles.
Yeah.
Period. It's only the ride hailing services that the companies themselves offer are the only applications. But we're
Yeah.
entering into a period where these cars will be more like smartphones. They will be
Yeah.
like an iPhone on wheels in your driveway. And in that case, imagine an iPhone that never had a robust app store, that never had a third party developer ecosystem. And then the iPhone would be worth a lot less to you. And it would be, it would just be not as useful. And you wouldn't sell as many if you're Apple, and it just wouldn't have done what it did. So I think that has to happen for personally owned autonomous vehicles. We have to look at them as the next device, smart device, but in this case, it's a robotic device that
Yeah.
can do a lot of things for you. But in order to make that as useful as possible, there's going to have to be lots of companies like Autolane solving challenges and opening up new applications of this technology so that we move faster as an industry.
I kind of view autonomous vehicles as, AI models that, just, everybody adopted them pretty much, in 3 years, I think. So I think it's just going to be a matter of time when people just start, fully trusting autonomous vehicles and realize they don't need to drive pretty much.
Mm.
It's a waste of time, right now.
Yep. And I
Uh,
think it will also turn out to be a public health issue. It really
oh,
will. Public health, public safety, because the data is already here that shows that it's at least marginally better than a human driver, but it will
yeah,
be very quickly multiple times better and safer than a human driver. And in that case, you end up, if you're the government in Europe, let's just take it for as
yeah,
that as an example, you end up in a situation in which you may be either delaying or canceling proven technology that
that's working.
well, no, that just mathematically saves lives
Yeah,
and
so it's like, yeah, I
reduces
mean,
hospital injuries via less accidents. And so if you get to a point with this technology where it's like just very clearly the United States data is going to show traffic accidents, traffic deaths, and traffic injuries have come down, let's say 50% since the adoption of autonomous vehicles, and then you multiply that by your citizenry and the cost of those healthcare and the economic benefits or the economic implications of injuries and death, you're going to end up in a situation where it's going to be criminally
which mandatory.
negligent, criminally negligent as a government
Yeah.
to deny that on other grounds when it will actually hurt your citizenry and your economy. So I think that that's
So,
going to be the major tipping point for regulation is when there's enough data to prove that point. Because I don't, there's only a few counterpoints to that, which is essentially jobs, probably job preservation. I think that's the only one. It'll be essentially be
yeah,
job preservation versus public health, and that'll be an interesting
yeah.
debate amongst the governments of the world. But it'll be very clear that this is saving lives and saving injuries and accidents. So it'll be hard to disprove that, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I was reading the article about how, I think the percentage wise of alcohol consumption in the US is, at the lowest point ever. But intoxicated drivers, I mean, the car crashes happening, from the drivers being intoxicated are still remaining the same. It's not changing. So imagine,
Wow,
I mean, we're not promoting drinking here,
that's
but
right.
imagine, having an autonomous car who can potentially save your life because you're not, indulging in
It's
um,
awesome, and I think like and that's the stuff that gets me really excited about where we're headed as a society is like we have to make sure that we're thinking, especially with the United States, like we have a very elderly population. It's a major
yeah,
concern. We're going to have a whole generation, tens of millions of people pretty soon that are in poor health, that are living, that need help with deliveries or support or whatever else, and that also will get to a point where they won't be able to drive themselves. And so this becomes a technology that really mobilizes our elderly population to be more self-sufficient, to be more active, to get things done cheaply and affordably and quickly without or having to rely on driving a car, which is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that get me excited about where this stuff all heads. Is there are some downsides, but the upsides are absolutely tremendous and
Tremendous. Yeah,
exciting.
tremendous.
You know,
I want to kind of to ask you if we can get that information from you. Who's actually using Autolane right now, or who is testing it right now?
yeah. I can't divulge the initial partner that we have right now, but
Absolutely.
it'll be public at least in the next 60 days. So
Okay.
I'll be sure to let
Congrats.
you guys know when that happens.
Yes,
But
please. We'll write an article for you, of
yeah,
course. Well,
thanks. Yeah. So that'll be happening here relatively soon here, and then we'll be live. And so autonomous vehicles will be coming to our open curb zones, and we will kind of do a case study on that. And what I can say is it's one of the top uh, retail properties in the United States. A few of them, a handful of the top retail properties in the United States in autonomous vehicle centric cities. So we'll be deploying our technology in those parking lots at those retail centers in order to do kind of the initial validation and testing of this technology, and then from there we'll scale it to autonomous commerce and other things. But relatively soon, and then we'll add more customers and start scaling as fast as we can. But we're getting close to that date.
yeah, yeah. Well, I will wish you all the luck in that. And I would kind of like to push our interview to kind of to the end and to finish the interview with the lightning round of the questions we prepared for you.
Cool.
So I mean, you can kind of answer it like a sentence or two. Or so the first one is, in your opinion, most overlooked bottleneck in AV adoption.
Real time edge case traffic and transportation shutdowns.
Okay. Yeah, we kind of covered that before. Interesting. Most overhyped parts of the autonomy stack.
I think the most overhyped part is the transferability
Hmm.
of certain technologies within autonomous vehicles. Everybody believes that their technology could be transposed on any type of vehicle
Okay.
and across any OEM, and I have doubts about that.
Okay. Because you actually know what it is to build a SaaS that's directly
It's just
connected.
it's just an extremely complicated
Yeah, process.
product, which is an autonomous vehicle that is high functioning, and so you've got to get everything well tuned in to that specific vehicle. And I'm not quite sure. We'll have to see how easily those technologies are transposed across
Yep.
types of cars and OEMs and driving environments. I don't know, but the experts
Hmm.
would know better than I would. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm dubious.
We shall see. A city you'd love to test in next.
Los Angeles.
Okay. And the last one product or a feature you're dying to build.
Um, this feature, which we will call self delivery,
Okay.
which is essentially a feature inside of the open curb infrastructure that allows you as an individual to send your personally owned autonomous vehicle to a grocery store or pharmacy to pick up your order and come back to you in your driveway. That feature we call self delivery because it's your own order, your own car, and you're just dispatching your car to do an errand for you that you don't want to do. That's the feature that we've been dreaming about since starting this company, and it's coming up soon. I think we'll be able to pull that off for the first time at the earliest in December, and
Yeah.
probably at the latest in March of next year.
Amazing. I mean, let us know when that is live. We are really hyped to, check out what you guys come up with next. Wish you all the luck. We're kind of
Thanks, man.
wrapping up. I'm sad we're wrapping up because I have to be honest, no BS. This was definitely one of my favorite episodes we've filmed so far,
Oh, thank you.
And I have to give a huge thanks to you, Ben, and the whole team, behind Autolane for showing us, what it takes to turn, the physical edge of mobility into something smart, scalable, and, EV ready. I mean, as I said, the curb might not be sexy, even though I think it is, but its mission is, critical. And as robots roll out, companies like Autolane are building the system that, make the autonomy actually work in the wild. We'll be back soon. Thank you once more, Ben, for this. It's how we want to do, a part two whenever you're down, whenever you have something
Would
cool
love
going
that.
on. We have huge plans, and yeah, wish you all the luck,
Cool.
and yeah,
Thank you,
keep the
Mari.
charging stack. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
wonderful, wonderful, Mon. It was a great episode, and thanks for the opportunity. And we'll talk again soon.